Hello, dear friends. My name is Sofia Dorinskaya. I am a doctor and the head of the Center for Medical Information, and I am happy to meet you again on the Evidence-Based Medicine channel. We'll review your questions again today, and we will focus on our favorite topic, the thyroid gland. Comment by Yi D. In hyperthyroidism, apparently, iodine is not allowed in hyperthyroidism. If you look at the common information on the internet, it says that iodine is not allowed in hyperthyroidism, so there are even medications that block the absorption of iodine by the thyroid gland. So everything is done to correct the condition. I didn't make a very pretty picture, of course. I'm not an artist. But anyway, this is our thyroid gland. Now I'll draw it. The thyroid gland. It doesn't look anatomical, but that's okay. Here it is, the thyroid gland. I drew it on purpose. So big. Hyperthyroidism, the mass of the thyroid gland is large because for some reason, the body demands the production of the hormone thyroxine. The thyroid gland can't keep up, so its mass increases. And it is believed that when we give the thyroid gland iodine, the mass of the thyroid gland is already large. Then, even more thyroxine starts to be produced, and the person already has thyrotoxicosis, and that's it, they die. To be continued. Ladies and gentlemen, those who try to discuss the thyroid gland, as well as doctors who are required to discuss this topic. Our thyroid gland does not produce the hormone simply because there is iodine in the body. The thyroid gland is a regulated gland. It is controlled by the pituitary gland, and it produces the hormone only when the pituitary provides iodine and gives the command to produce thyroxine. To produce thyroxine, it's not because we gave the thyroid gland iodine. It's not an independent gland. Even if the thyroid has iodine, B vitamins, and everything else, it won't function on its own. Why would it just sit there and produce thyroxine separately from the whole body? No, my friends, that's not how it works. The thyroid gland produces hormones only when its controlling gland, the pituitary, tells it to do so using thyroid-stimulating hormone. The pituitary sends this command every second, constantly. Produce, produce. Therefore, the question is not whether the thyroid gland has enough. Tom went crazy because her life was going so well. Our question is, what do we have here? The pituitary gland just can't stop giving its commands. So the thyroid gland produces Thyroxine. And here we go back to the previous video we discussed, where this Thyroxine is floating around in the bloodstream. It still hasn't entered the cell because the command, the signal to the pituitary gland that it needs it, Thyroxine is requested by the body's cells, each and every cell in the body. This hormone is needed in order to live, for metabolic processes to occur, to prevent stagnation, to avoid fluid accumulation, and so that the cells do not become dystrophic and break down due to a lack of nutrition, because stagnation, dystrophic changes, cell death, and so on can occur. Our cells are being damaged. Our beloved pituitary gland, because it's not just on its own. It wasn't just born and sits there doing nothing, thinking, let me just produce some thyroid-stimulating hormone for no reason. He did everything. Watched television, some series, maybe went for a walk. Ate a pastry, has nothing else to do, so he thinks, let me give some orders. Let the thyroid gland produce its hormones. No, my friends, he gets a very strict demand from the cells. They don't have enough. They don't have this thyro. They don't have hormones. They just don't have them. At this point, the cell is already reacting like, no, I don't have the hormone. What are you doing there? The pituitary gland is working, Pushing the thyroid gland, like, what else can I do? The pituitary is trying, the thyroid gland is trying. You give iodine to the thyroid gland, and it's like, oh my God, I can fulfill all the pituitary's commands. I'll produce even more thyroxine now. But my God, those of you who are trying to figure this out, why are you ignoring this system again? Why have you forgotten everything here again? Because this is our production process, and this is how we deliver the product to the consumer. What's the point of having bread sitting in your warehouse if you haven't delivered it to the stores yet and people haven't bought it? They will start hungry riots, and it makes no difference if you have food in your warehouses. It's the same here. There's no difference if thyroxine is floating around in your bloodstream, none, if it hasn't entered the cell. Then this system will keep going until exhaustion, until pituitary tumors, because it also doesn't have enough resources to carry out these commands from the body, from the cells. It also doesn't have enough resources, and the body starts growing more cells here, and pituitary tumors form, and the thyroid gland swells up and demands iodine, you see, and cysts develop in it, and all sorts of things develop there, because it's trying to fulfill this. But you have a problem right here. Ladies and gentlemen professionals, why can't you seem to realize that your hormone has to enter the cell? Continuation. How much iodine does the thyroid gland need? Let's look at the recommended iodine intake in case of a nuclear power plant explosion. People from 2 years old, 2 years, maybe about 70 centimeters tall, maybe less, from 2 years old. And do you know until what age? They should take 62.5 mg of iodine at once. Let me remind you that iodine intake is usually measured in micrograms, but here we need to take 62.5 millirals. Do you know why? Because when there's an explosion at a nuclear power plant, a lot of radioactive iodine is released, and the thyroid gland, it really needs iodine, and the body confuses radioactive iodine with non-radioactive iodine, and the body sees a situation with a lot of iodine as a good thing, so the thyroid just absorbs and takes in this radioactive iodine. So we need a strong dose of 62.5 milliliters for people over 2 years old, so that the thyroid gland is completely filled with non-radioactive iodine, so it doesn't absorb the radioactive one. And now think about it. How much iodine does the thyroid gland need to be healthy? Let me remind you once again. The thyroid gland produces thyroxine not because it has iodine. The thyroid gland produces thyroxine because it receives a command. The thyroid gland stores iodine in order to quickly and efficiently carry out the commands of the pituitary gland. When the cells lack thyroxine, the thyroid gland releases it. Thyroxine must enter the cell. Very, very, very clearly and in great detail what is needed for thyroxine to enter the cell. I have a separate video dedicated to this, so watch this video until the end. In the end screens, there will be another video where I explain what is needed for thyroxine to enter the cell. I won't repeat myself. But the thyroid gland needs iodine. It simply stores it. And if it has enough iodine, it is simply healthy. When enough thyroxine enters the cells, we've optimized the process by ensuring thyroxine gets into the cell. As you will learn in the video that will be at the end of this video. So, when you've ensured this, the mass of the gland should be reduced, and the organ and the pituitary gland stops overreacting it stops producing. These are the excessive signals for the production of thyroxine, and the mass of the thyroid gland should be reduced by the body. By what means? With the help of antibodies. This is an absolutely natural and normal process of increasing and decreasing the gland. Because glands are very flexible tissue, it's not a stationary state, the body can reduce the mass of any gland because it has to adjust, especially the thyroid. It has to adjust this little factory, increase or decrease it, and with the help of autoimmune processes, it reduces the mass of the thyroid gland. And when you provide the proper delivery of thyroxine to the cell stops overreacting. Through the feedback system, your system returns to normal, your thyroid gland decreases, and your body starts to function harmoniously. But at the same time, the thyroid gland must receive iodine in any case, because iodine is an extremely rare trace element, and the thyroid gland needs it so much. Maybe it's normal when we're talking about a critical situation. To fill the entire thyroid gland, you need 62.5 milligrams. And in everyday life, the amount of iodine is measured in micrograms. Editor. From experience, I can say that the thyroid gland feels great when you give it iodine not in micrograms, but in milligrams. That is, dozens or even hundreds of times more, and it feels perfectly fine. And nothing happens to you for one simple reason. When the cells get their proper amount of thyroxine, there's no panic. The thyroid gland stores its iodine perfectly. It feels great, and it responds immediately to any situation, even stressful ones, to any of them. You got up early, you didn't eat, you got overexcited. Maybe you received some silly message, or goodness, you watched the news, that's it. But it responds perfectly. The system regulates quickly and efficiently. Your body reacts in time, and everything calms down once the situation has passed. So, my friends, iodine in hyperthyroidism. Yes, when your thyroid gland is enlarged and you give it iodine, of course, the gland will produce more hormones. Not due to iodine, but because it constantly gets signals from the pituitary gland. And you need to figure out how thyroid hormones are penetrating into the cell. Go watch the previous video, where we discuss in detail how it happens and what is needed for the thyroid hormone to enter the cell. And this way, we make our body healthy. If you need a personal, individualized analysis of your situation and truly want to get your body in order just for you, please visit the website Dorinskaya.com. Come, go through your programs to eliminate deficiencies. We are always happy, always ready to help. All the best. Goodbye. Subtitles.